Hey guys, it's a gorgeous day in Austin today. I hadn't done a video in a few days and I decided to do an option basics video. Today we're going to talk about spreads. So far in the option basic class, all we've done is talk about buying options. You can either buy calls or you can buy puts. Like I told you, but to refresh your memory, when you buy a call, it's like renting the upside of a stock. The upside past the strike price of the call you buy. And the renting part of it, you have the stock's upside rented until it expires. That's every option has a strike and an expiration date. All right. So that's a pretty simple concept to get. And buying calls is awesome. Buying puts is awesome. I've made a few trades in the class, and 2 of them have been good, or 3 of them have been good actually. But I'm just trying to illustrate some simple concepts. Okay, so we've covered buying options, and the reason we aren't going right to selling options next is because selling options involves having a large account generally. When you sell an option, you either have to own the stock in the case of a call, and you sell a covered call, so that means you have to have stock, or it means you have to be willing to purchase stock. If you sell a put, if you sell a put on a $100 stock, in the worst case scenario, you could end up having to buy that stock, but it's a $100 stock. So for each put you sell, you're committing yourself to a $10,000 investment. And that's not bad if you're interested in owning that stock. Hey, I got Jax here with me. I forgot to show you guys. Anyway, and that's not bad if you're interested in owning the stock, but I'm trying to focus on small-time retail trades first. And we're going to get to the bigger trades too, the covered calls and the cash secured puts. But the credit spread to me is the ultimate small-time retail trade. And you can do a credit spread with calls or with puts. So we're going to be talking about spreads, basically. All right, so what's a spread? A spread is where you buy one option and you sell another option. So it's just a combination of 2 option positions. Whereas when you just buy an option or when you just sell an option, it's called an outright. It's an outright position. It doesn't have a hedge. When you just own stock and you don't have an option against it, it's called an outright position. Spreads are a whole different ballgame, and I really like them, and I want to show you a few things about them. All right, so let's talk about the first one we're going to talk about, since I'm kind of a perma-bull, is it's called the bull put spread, but it's also a credit spread. All right, let's choose a stock here. Let's choose the SPY. SPY is a stock hopefully everyone's familiar with, or an ETF everyone's familiar with. SPY is a S&P 500 index. It's passively managed. It does the exact same thing that the S&P 500 does. And it owns all 500 stocks in the S&P 500. It even pays you a dividend, I think 1.6% or something. It's a great ETF. I think it's probably the biggest ETF in the world. I bet it is anyway. I'm not sure. All right. Well, anyway, let's talk about how I'm going to show it to you 2 different ways. So let's talk about a bull put spread or a credit spread. So let's talk what that's comprised of. So a bull put spread or a credit spread. We'll just stick with the credit spread now. A credit spread using puts is where you sell one put. All right. In this case, I'm choosing the at the money put. The little diamonds is where the money is. This is out of the money on the put side, on the downside that way, and that's out of the money on the call side. But since we're talking about puts, we would sell one put, and we're just going to call it at the money to make it easy. Then we would buy a put further out of the money. All right? So you guys know that when you buy a put, you've bought puts before. When you buy a put, you're renting the downside on a stock. In this case, you're renting the downside below the strike price, which is $4.94, and until the expiration day, which is tomorrow. Yeah, these are for tomorrow. This is a one-day spread. One-day bull put spread or a credit spread. All right, so let's look at the prices on these. This one right here, the one that you sell, it's called the short leg, is going for $1.33. Well, it's going for between $1.30 and $1.33. If you're trying to sell it, you're likely going to get the lower price. So we're going to figure $1.30. So we can get $1.30 to sell that, okay? And if we wanted to, we don't have to do a spread. We could just sell that naked. When it's brown, it just means it's grayed out. We could just sell that option naked. It's the same thing. We get $130 either way. Hey, great. All right. Well, why don't we just sell it naked? Why do we even need to do the spread? Why am I even having to learn about these crazy things? Well, look at your, when you just sell the option by itself, you know, if the stock doesn't go anywhere, you make $95. If the stock goes up a little bit, you make $130. If the SPY goes down a little bit, you lose $119, right? Yeah, great. Wonder if a black swan hits and the SPY drops 4% in a day. Hell, last week it dropped 2% in a day. The Qs did. Do you have $891? Even if you do you want to risk $891 to make $130? And not only that, they're going to charge you. So when you sell a call, when you sell any option, you sell an option without it being a spread, so it's an outright position. If you just want to sell this put, the brokerage firm would charge you $9,000 margin. But $9,000 is only like a fifth of your maximum loss. Okay, they'll just charge you $9,000 to make sure you're good for it. But in theory, you could lose $50,000 trying to make this $130. So there's nothing wrong with naked puts. And if you have a big enough account, there's nothing wrong with it. Or if you're willing to buy the SPY, if you're looking to pick up shares of the SPY anyway, you know, then that's fine. Because if you buy a stock, you also can lose this much money. So if you're willing to buy the SPY, or you just have a lot of money, I don't know. But even if you have a lot of money, if you're willing to buy the SPY, yeah, do it naked. If you don't want to buy the SPY, and if you don't want to lose $1,600, put on a spread. So let's include this one again. So we know about this one. This one's selling for $1.30. Okay, great. Now, what I did is I just chose a strike price 5 strikes away, and that's going to play a role in a second. But so 494 is the short strike. The sold options at 494. So 4 strikes away when you're talking puts is -4. So 494. I'm sorry, -5. 494 minus 5 is 489. So that's where we're going to buy the other option. A lot of people call this buying protection. This is like having a stop loss, except you don't have to use a stop loss. We're doing it with another option. So let's look into this. Okay, so we're going to sell this one for $130, and then we can buy this one at the same time. But now bid and ask. Remember, you have to buy on the ask generally and sell on the bid. So we're just going to assume that we're going to have to buy it for 11 cents. All right, so let's see what this does. Both of these together, we sell this one for $130, and then buy this one for $11. $130 minus $11 is $119. So if we put on this spread, if we did this trade right now, we could make $119. Okay, and the thing is, even if a black swan hits and the market goes down 4 or 5%, like I said, it went down 2% last week. It happens all the time. Okay, even if the market goes down 2%, okay, well, you lost $381. That's not great, but it was like $1,600 the other way. You know, now the drawback is you don't make $130 when you're selling this option naked because it cost $130. You make $130. You only make $119 this way, but you cut off all that downside. I don't know if you guys saw my video about the trade that I wish Jay would do on Defiance. Defiance does this trade. They do this, and it's a great strategy. I mean, Defiance can get away with this because they have $250 million in the bank. They they keep the cash around and they're willing to buy they're willing to take the loss. So it's all right for Defiance to do this. But I just think it'd make a lot of sense for people that are kind of nervous about Defiance selling naked options. I just think it'd make a lot of sense for them to do this trade. So that's why I came out with the max convexity spread. And it's a stupid name. It should be called the less convexity spread, because it's kind of a scaredy cat trade. What I'm saying is, hey, Jay, you're freaking out a lot of people with that naked put. Even though I understand it and I get it and I know it has a huge edge, etc., people don't like seeing their account balance go down 2 or 3% in one day. You know, so I just don't know why they don't offer they could call it a hedged, you know, it could be, I don't know, they could market it somehow. It would still be a high yield fund. It could be a medium yield fund. You know, they wouldn't make as much yield. Selling naked puts is the best way to gather income. That's what they're into. They're into gathering yield. But, you know, they could offer about half as much yield and do some kind of structure like this. I think it makes a lot of sense. But that's just me. You know, that's just me. Now let's get back to what we're talking about. So let's talk about why this is a credit spread. So, well, let's talk about this. In options, you can break everything down, even all these crazy trades like a butterfly. A butterfly is just a combination of a credit spread and a debit spread. Just like in science, you can break everything down to the molecular level. In options, you can break everything down to credit spreads and debit spreads. Every position is made of credit spreads and debit spreads. There's also calendar spreads, but we aren't going to worry about those right now. A calendar spread is just a form of a credit spread. So, but we're going to get into those later. But basically, everything's either a credit spread or a debit spread in options. All right, so what a credit spread means, it means you're getting a credit. See, $119. That's why they call it a credit spread. The other name for this is a bull put spread, and that name works too because it's bullish for sure, because you want the price to go this way, right? That's why they call it bull, and then it is a put spread. Okay, and then I'll talk about bear put spreads in a second, but let's talk about credit spreads right now. So this is a credit spread, and what else it means the option you're selling costs more than the one you're buying. All right, so let's do it this way. Let's make this a debit spread. Let's put this strike 5 points on the other side of this option and see what happens. Okay, that is now a debit spread because we're paying a debit. We aren't receiving a credit. Okay, well, guess what else it is? It's also a put spread. And what do we want the price to do if we have this position on? See, we want the price to go this way or down. So guess what? This is a bear put spread. This is a bull put spread. That's a bear put spread. Very simple concepts. We're going to stick with bullish put spreads today and credit spreads, because debit spreads are a different animal. We're going to talk about them on a different day. Credit spreads. So here's why else I like a credit spread. What else a credit spread means? A credit spread is a trade that you have the advantage. You're earning time decay. And you have one way you know you have the advantage when you're looking at a trade, an option trade. Look at this trade. If the market goes nowhere, you make money. Anytime that happens in an option trade, if you put on an option trade and you don't want the market to move, or you don't need the market to move, that means you have an advantage, and you're bringing in time decay is what that means. Okay, so over here on Tasty Trade, we're gonna put the same trade in. I've already loaded it in. All right, so just to refresh everyone's memory, or in case you haven't seen it, when you're looking at the option table, which is the way they have it in newspapers. They don't have newspapers anymore, but it's the way they have it online. It's the way they used to have it in newspapers. The puts are on the right. The calls are on the left. Right down the middle, they have the strike prices. They usually have a line that goes across that indicates where the money is, right? Okay, so right here, the 494, that is the put that we sold. So in Tasty Trade, you click on the bid. See, the bid's the left column, which that's the price you can sell at. The ask is the right column. That's the price you can buy at. There's a difference because the market maker likes to make the 2 cents difference. The market maker, that's kind of the market maker's little edge in this trade. All right. So anyway, to put, let's see. All right, so to put this trade on from scratch, you would look at the strike you on. It's right at the money, so you would click on the left side. So you click on the. So then it says sell one. Okay, so then you go down to the one that you want to buy for protection, and you would click on the ask side of it, and that indicates in Tasty Trade that you're trying to buy it, and most other platforms too. I think Thinkorswim works the same way. It's the same people made both platforms. Boom. Okay. So that's what our spread looks like when we load it up in Tasty Trade. Okay, well, let's look. We're going to talk about delta and theta. I want to talk about some Greeks really quick. And then we're going to look at one or two other things. And I hope your head's not getting ready to explode yet. And then I'm going to let you guys go. All right. So let's talk about, let's look down here and see what statistics they give you. And most brokerages give you these statistics. So you don't have to have Tasty Trade. It's a good idea to have Tasty Trade. It's a great platform, so is Thinkorswim. But you get these on most platforms. Okay. Percent of profit. So 61%, 62%. You know how I'm always saying you win 2 times out of 3 when you sell options? Well, it's on this particular trade, they've calculated it for you, and it's not quite 2 times out of 3 because that'd be 66.6%. But it's 62%. But they calculate it, and it depends on where your strikes are. If you do these strikes, you have a 59% chance of winning. If you do these strikes, you have a 62% chance. If you do these strikes, you have a 63% chance. The computer figures all this stuff out for you. That's important to look at. Then it's also important to look at this number, extrinsic. This is the time value you're capturing. If you've watched my update at all on QQQY, you know I'm always talking about extrinsic premium. Heck, on my profit boxes, you know I have a green part of the box and I have a yellow part of the box. Well, guess what? The yellow part of the box is the extrinsic premium. Extrinsic premium is also known as time value. What do we know about extrinsic premium? I've said this a million times, but in case you haven't seen it, what we know about extrinsic premium is it always goes to 0 by expiration. This number right here, this $90, will be 0 tomorrow at 3 o'clock when these options expire. All right, Jack's got himself tangled up. Hang on a second. All right, Jack's is a good boy, and he's really patient to put up with me while I do these videos. All right, so we know that number will be 0 by the end of the day. Okay, well, let's talk about the Greeks, because it also has this thing called theta right here. And then there's also this thing called delta right here. Delta and theta are the 2 most important Greeks. All right, so let's talk about delta real quick. All right, so we're going to go away. Okay, watch this. I'm going to remove this leg, and I'm going to pretend like we're just buying this put, because it's simpler to explain delta when you're just buying an option. Okay. But it works the same way for selling it. But if we bought this option because we thought the market was going to drop tomorrow, so we buy a put, right? We're renting the downside on a put. Okay. So we buy this option. What does delta tell us? Well, it's a 56 delta. So that tells us a couple of things. The first thing it tells us is if the market drops, it tells us what kind of profit we could expect to make off this. We're spending $1.42 if we buy it, because remember we have to buy on the ask side. So if we spend $1.42 to buy this bad boy, and the market drops $1, we're going to make 56 cents. So this $1.42 will go to $1.50 or $1.98, right? Yeah, $1.98. So that's, tomorrow when the market opens up, if the SPY drops for $1 less than it is now, we're gonna make 56 cents. So that's pretty good. That lets you know how much leverage you have in the trade or how much bang for the buck you're getting. You say, okay, I'm spending $1.42, but I'm going to make 50 cents on the dollar as the market drops. Well, that's good to know. let's think about this other way too. There's another way. Delta means two things. It also tells you, delta also tells you, a 55 delta tells you there's a 55% chance that this option ends up in the money. And that would make sense because the money, the market's right here, you know, and the option's right where the market is right now. So 50% chance, because yeah, what happens on any given day? The market goes up or it goes down, about half and half, right? More or less. Goes up a little bit more than it goes down, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that would make sense. There's about a 50% chance of this option ending up in the money. The market drops, the option will be in the money. If the SPY goes up, the option will be out of the money. But so the delta gives you how much bang for your buck you're getting if the market starts moving. 55 cents on a dollar move gets you 55 cents return. That's good. But then it also tells you the odds of this option ending up in the money. And where that comes in more handy, there's a better example. I'm going to remove this leg. Here's a better example, and this is when people YOLO. If people think the market's going to crash tomorrow, but they don't want to spend a lot of money. So let's say they go out here to this 8 cents option. Let's say they buy that option, okay? Because they think the market's going to crash. Well, it has a delta of 5. What does a 5 delta tell us? Well, it tells us a couple things. First thing it tells us if the SPY drops $1 tomorrow, this option will increase by 5 cents. So it'll go from 8 cents to 13 cents, which isn't not a bad return on your investment, but you know, you don't get as much bang for your buck as if you buy this option, because if the SPY drops $1, you're going to make $56. If the SPY drops $1 and you have this option, you're going to make $5. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Here's another way to look at it, though. It's also the odds of this option ending up in the money. Since this is a put, in the money means below here. So just think about this. The market's right here right now. So what do you think the odds are the SPY is going to drop more than 10 points by tomorrow? Pretty small. I'd say about 5% chance. And what do you know? The delta's 5%. About 1 times out of 20, you're going to get a 10-point drop in the SPY in one day. And that would make sense. So this gives you your bang for your buck and the amount of, well, and it gives you the size risk you're taking. Here's the way a lot of people actually use delta. Let's say you're selling this instead of buying this. Let's say you're selling this option. Okay. People go, this is free money. I'm going to make this $8, but I'm going to sell 1,000 of them. So it's $8,000. I'm going to do 1,000 of these contracts, right? Okay. You know, and look, I don't have much, you know, and I'm going to be fine. Yeah, you're probably going to be fine. 95% of the time, you're going to be fine. There's 5% of the time this option's going in the money. And remember, if you're selling it, you're ending up owing the difference. So it's a lot of people use theta. I'm sorry. Well, we're still on delta. A lot of people use delta to measure how much risk they have in a trade. And that's a good way to do it. Okay, but we are going to talk about theta next. But yeah, delta's probably, if I had to only look at one Greek, it'd be delta. Delta's the number one you need to know because it does two things for you. But theta is also important. So we're going to talk about theta next. So let's see. Let's do this. So for the example to learn about theta, let's pretend like we're doing like Jay does and we're just selling an in the money put. We're just going to pretend like we're selling this 494 naked, you know, just like Defiance does, just to make the example easy. We're going to switch this column up here from delta to theta. Okay. All right. So if we sell this option, we earn $142. We have to have, you know, $49,000 in our account before they'll let us do it. We talked about that earlier. That's the reason you don't want to, oftentimes you don't want to do this. But if we sell this option, what theta tells us, it tells us tomorrow how much time premium we're going to earn. In other words, how much is this option going to decay? Theta is a measure of the decay. Okay? So here's another way to look at theta. Theta is also an expression of extrinsic. So this option right now has $92 of extrinsic according to the option calculator. Well, guess what is about the same? It's theta and extrinsic are about the same. Because if this option expires, tomorrow, the extrinsic is going to go to 0. So that's another measure of the time decay that we're earning. So you're trying to capture extrinsic. That's all J is doing and Defiance is doing, is trying to capture extrinsic when they're selling options. When you sell a naked option or when you sell a credit spread, the whole deal is you're trying to capture this extrinsic. So, but let's say we don't want to lose $49,000 or we don't want to risk that much. So let's say we put on the spread. So now we're back to the spread example. Selling the 494 and buying the 489. Okay. All right. So now we're back to the spread. Well, you can look, each option has its own theta. The further out the money options don't have as high of a theta. But, this option's only going to lose $10 tomorrow in time decay, which is pretty much all it's worth. Theta is theoretical. It's based on because you would think this should be 13. Well, and I guess the reason this theta number's not 13 is because it factors the chance of this option going in the money. Remember, there's a slight chance. There's a 5% chance it goes in the money. So the calculation figures that out and zeroes it out. But anyway, so this option we're selling, we're earning $84 of theta, which is great. But then we're buying this option, so we're spending theta. Because we're buying this option, it's going to cost us time decay. But anyway, so people would say this trade has a net theta of $74. Well, guess what else is $74? Your extrinsic. Theta and extrinsic are very similar to being the same. I know that option Greeks are not fun and they're complicated, but if you just get a good handle on delta and theta, it tells you everything you need to know. So these trades that, like Defiance does, to go back to a real life example, they're theta positive. The one Defiance does is just like this. So Jay knows when he puts on that trade, he's going to earn the theta, or he's going to earn the extrinsic. Even if the trade's not profitable every time, he still knows it's still a theta positive trade, or it's an advantage trade. Here's also the percent of profit. It's a 62% chance you win. You're going to make that much, theta. This is the reason that Jay and Defiance, and not only that, YieldMax and other covered call funds are able to pay dividends even when they don't actually make a trading profit that month. Because they know if they don't make a trading profit this month, they'll make one next month. These options have such a heavy advantage on your side, you can count on it. The theta is always going to go to 0. So to go back to Defiance, all it is a scheme to collect extrinsic or theta decay. And remember, if you watch my videos, you know that Jay just pays 90% of the extrinsic back to you. That's all they're doing, is they're running a strategy. They're capturing all the extrinsic they can, and they're giving it out to you, or giving you 90% of it. And I know on IWMY last month, when the fund itself didn't actually have a trading profit, it made people wonder, but they're going to be fine. Like I say, they use future value calculations. They have computers a lot more sophisticated than this. That's the way the game's played. There's months when the YieldMax options don't make money either, but they still pay you the theta decay or the extrinsic. Okay, so back to this example. I'm sorry to get off the track there. Okay, but it ties in with what we're doing here. So you can do the same thing Jay does, it's just an individual trader. You can, and this is the way I would do it. I would sell this put spread or this credit spread. You hear people talk about selling a spread and buying a spread. Here's one other thing that's important to know. When you're selling a spread, it means it's a credit spread. When you're selling a spread, it means that you're bringing in more premium than you're putting out. If we're doing it the other way and it's a debit spread, we call that buying a spread. I'm going to go buy a spread. When you buy a spread, you know it's a debit spread. When you sell a spread, it's a credit spread. So if you wanted to, and you don't want to invest with Defiance, you could go sell a credit spread every day in your own account, as long as you have $371. And you could do very similar to what Jay does, and you could just do it yourself. And you could end up at the end of the month, you could pay yourself whatever extrinsic you captured. I'm going to show this one other way, then I'm going to let you guys get out of here. I appreciate your patience. So let's look at let's pretend like we do this trade that we just did, or this trade. You know, you can look at it this way, or you can look at it this way with all the fancy stats. But we can also put it into a backtester. Let's just pretend like we do this trade every day since 2006. Just to prove what I'm saying. Let's see if it really does have a big advantage. Let's see if we're going to come out ahead. All right, so first of all, in the backtester, you have to know the delta to put it on. We sold the put, and it's the 55 delta. Oh, I'm sorry. And then we bought, this is a plus one, and gosh darn it. Then we bought this put, the 8 delta, okay? So that's the trade, 1 day till expiration. I'm going to hit run strategy backtest. I guarantee you this is going to make money. Not a little bit of money, a lot of money. Because this is a money-winning strategy. The same way that I know this is going to make money before I even look at it, it's the same way Jay knows that he can afford to pay us the extrinsic. All right, so here we go. Heck yeah. You win 73% of the time when you do this. The Tasty Trade calculator just said 60, but that means that was just that 1 day's trade was a 60% chance. This back tests all the trades. So on all the trades, you have an average win rate of 73%. Well, that's great. That's a huge win rate. Well, look at this. You don't have any huge losses. I mean, the biggest loss you have is $1,100 because you have protection. You know, you have some nice size profits in there. If we ran the same trade without the protection, without the wing that we bought, the largest loss would be way bigger. Anyway, that's why we aren't doing that. For a small retail trader, this is the only way to go. So let's look at this. The average premium collected is $138. What did we figure we were getting? That's about what we got on this trade, right? Or what was our, I already forgot. Yeah, it's a credit of, yeah, it's almost exactly what our credit was. Our credit was 127. But this is just taking the average credit over time. So that's how much, you know, that's how much credit we earn on average. But then some trades are winners, some trades are losers. Once they average all those out, you still make $11 a day. And I know $11 a day may not sound like a lot, but think about this. This trade cost you, call it $400 to put on. So you know what 11 is as a percent of 400? It's like 2.6. Think about that, 2.6% in a day. That's huge. There's 200 trading days in a year. If you could do this every day, that's 400% a year. There's tons of money. Tons of money in selling options. Hella money. So even though the number doesn't look like a lot, that is a lot on a percentage basis. If you take in the percent of what you've risked. Or you could even look at this as a percent of your biggest loser. It's 1% of your biggest loser. Okay. But, you know, over the course of since 2006, that went through the bad 2008, 2009 market. That went through COVID. You know, that it's gone through all those markets, you know, and it's stood the test of time, and it is a long-time money winner. That money right there is the money that Jay's actually paying us out of. They have the stats. They know they're going to make money. Maybe not this month, maybe not next month, but in the aggregate, they're going to make money. And like I say, it's just a scheme to any selling option scheme. It's just a scheme to earn extrinsic or earn theta, earn time decay, however you want to look at it. All right, guys. So that is enough. Gosh darn it. That's enough confusion for one day. I hope you guys like this lesson. Let me know in the comments. I'll come back and do another lesson tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to do, tomorrow we're going to talk about credit spreads. I mean, about debit spreads. We're going to make the opposite trade. There's plenty of good things about debit spreads too. You don't have the odds in your favor. You're giving up the odds being in your favor, but you're getting some good stuff in return as well. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. All right, guys. Where's Jackson? Jackson, are you back there? He's being a good boy. He's a good dog. Come here, Jackson. Let me see you. He's a really sweet boy to put up with all this influencer stuff. I don't think he's that into YouTube. whenever I do a report in the house, if I'm not watching him, he'll go chew something up. But yeah, he's a sweet boy. All right, guys. You guys take care. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a good one.